Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Spiker Christensen. That's my quote for the movie. We've
I
got
thought you were
Jordan.
gonna impersonate the what's his name, the kid in the wheelchair. He's like,
He's acting like freaking Nick Otto Avocado or whatever. He's just like a weird, I don't know, driving around as a little rascal. Yeah, he's pretty much just Nick Otto Avocado or whatever his name is. And we've got Jordan Christensen on the podcast.
well, I just did my quote. So,
How about I didn't even do the quote.
what? What about the guy in the? I can't remember any of the things he says, but when he's cutting his hand, and then he like grabs the other guy's arm.
Hey, what are you doing? Because, dude, I'm pretty sure I went to school with kids like that, dude. Like, my public school is filled with kids like that. Okay, for listeners out there, we are reviewing today the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And I,
This
I
movie,
didn't tell you this, but
yeah.
I did do a short mini episode with Nick about this movie. I didn't tell you because I wanted to talk about it again because I love this movie so much.
Is that right? You did a short? Oh, no, no, that's not going to do it justice. So, believe it or not, this is so well, let's get into it. This movie came out in 1974 and it's categorized as a B horror film. No, it's an A rated. It's an A horror film, please. Yeah. Anyway, it's directed by Hooper, or if it's Toby, I think it might be Toby. Tobe. I don't think anyone goes by the name Tobe. Hooper, and written by Henkel and Hooper, which is odd because I've never seen any of these actors in anything. I've never seen any of the writing. Like it's just out of this
Well, you've
world.
definitely seen
Stars
Tobe
Marilyn
Hooper movies.
Burns.
You've seen his Poltergeist.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen his work, and I gotta say, man, this guy has an eye for horror films. Holy smokes. That's so good. So, guys, let's get into it. What was like watching this movie for the first time, rewatching it for the podcast? I watched a newer version or remake, I think. It was a 2010 or
Yeah.
2011 version of this movie. And I thought that was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And so I watched this and I was pleasantly surprised. This one was much better. And I was like, holy crap, like this is the one I thought I wanted to see. And then at the end, I was like, this is a masterpiece. How weird is it that I thought about this movie? Anyway, I never believed I would be saying that in my entire lifetime, but like those movies freaking great, dude. How weird is that? That's weird, isn't it? Anyway, I have a lot of thoughts about it. Um, Jordan, what was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast?
I remember really liking that the first time. Honestly, can't remember the specifics, but yeah, I've seen it
I think
a
Jordan was
couple
obsessed with
a,
chainsaws
a
and
couple times since, and I definitely enjoy it a lot. It's
I might be desensitized, but this movie, for its title, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's not like the grisliest or most violent movie I've ever seen, which is odd. For some reason,
well,
I guess I thought it would be. Granted, it came out in the 70s, but
well,
still,
because it doesn't always show, like you just see people's reactions of terror.
yeah, they
Yeah.
did a really good job at less is more because your imagination is so much more horrific because this movie felt like a lot, but then I was like, it didn't show a lot, but my goodness, you felt it a lot.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, you
Uh,
still see a girl get hooked, and
you don't see it. I just
I know you
watched
don't
it.
see it, but you
Yeah,
see her lifted up, and it's still that
yeah.
it just
I know
it
she's
it's
placed on a
the
hook, a meat hook. It's freaking disgusting
it's
and
the what's the black
horrifying.
and white director Alfred Hitchcock. It's like, your mind is worse than what
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
you can produce.
100%. And that's just what I'm talking about. Like this movie, you're like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, do you see people getting cut in half? You're like, no, not really. Like ever. No, like it's weird, but like
And and I'm
anyway.
giving that credit to Alfred Hitchcock, even though I'm like, I don't even know if he was the first to say it, but
What did he say?
well, no,
Less
I'm
is more. Send me some Ozempic. I'm getting quite overweight. I don't know. What did he say, Jordan? He's
no,
a
I
big chubby
I've
boy.
I've already said it. I was just saying that
Okay.
you the images in your head are worse than anything you can show.
100%. Yes. Your imagination, you just give him the playground and then you let your mind run wild. Give him a little bit of a
Well, it's
lead.
the same as Reservoir
And
Dogs. You'd actually see him cut off his ear, but
yeah, somehow it's even more effective, right? Yeah. That you're more scared of the shark in Jaws when you don't see it, if it's just around. It's the feeling of dread, right? And I think that that's what this movie does so well. My goodness, it was a 74 film. And I remember watching the ending and be like, dude, they've made such good horror films back in the day. Like at least these folks
Alien
did.
in the
Alien, yeah.
70s as well.
I
Yeah.
was like, 70s had such amazing, iconic horror movies. I'm sure there was a bunch of trash and garbage ones because I've seen The Blob. No, and I
The
actually love The
original.
Blob. Yeah, no, but even the original I love. I'm trying to think of like a trashy. I mean,
No, well, but
like
there's like an
the
older,
Blob of
older
everybody.
blob, and then there's like a
No,
remake.
I know. I've seen both
Okay.
versions and I like them both. The
I
Frank
love the
Darabont one is
remake.
great. That's an amazing one. It's a great monster flick. And the old one's still good with Steve McQueen. I'm trying to think of like, is it called The Blob Who Ate Everybody? Like there's a fake version of The Blob.
Frank Darabont, I think he just wrote the blob. I don't
Did
think
he
he
only write it?
actually.
Okay, so he didn't
Yeah.
direct it. Okay. So he wrote it, but he also had what's his face, the detective plays Dale in The Walking Dead. So just a lot of parallels. Thanks for
Oh yeah,
correcting.
because he does bring on, yeah, him to all his movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Anyway,
directed by Chuck Russell.
Chuck Russell. Got it. That was the 80 version, right? The 1980
Hmm.
Blob. Great use of characters being props for the horror, right? Like the victims being part of the monster. Love, 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 love that. Kind of like the thing.
Well, the practical is
Because
so good.
yeah, yeah, but it also changes the monster because it's still the same blob and creature and it's getting bigger, but like seeing the victim's part of it like makes the horror like the creature change shape in a
Terrifying.
way. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
its dead victims are now taking, which is what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did. Like, there's a bunch of people wearing leather faces of other people. It's so gross. So anyway, let's get into two of your favorite things from this movie. I want to hear it from you, Jordan. What are your two favorite things from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Uh, I mean, I'm a geek for this crap. I'm gonna go see Terrifier. I unfortunately I
Yeah,
have
Jordan's all
plans.
like, "Oh, I don't know if talking about the Chainsaw Massacre is that I'm gonna go see Art, the Killer Clown,
I know
movie
part three.
3."
I'm so excited. Yeah, because I wanted to see it tomorrow, but my wife and I have plans, unfortunately, so I have to wait till Friday.
I can't
But
imagine your wife wanting to go see
I
Terrifier
tried to
3.
convince her. She's like, not a chance.
Yeah,
I tried to even show her a scene from it, and she's like, I hate this. Turn it off now. She was not.
good for her. I tried to watch the first one, not for me. It's not
Well, I
my
wasn't
cup
gonna
of tea.
show her like a gore scene. I was just gonna show her the funny scene when he's in the
Okay,
Halloween shop.
funny scene, Jordan. Let's get something straight here. It's like morbid dark comedy, if you can even call it that. So
Yeah, I think it's great. The theater I was watching it in, we were all laughing. So I was like, these are
Jordan's
my
like, I
people.
found my people. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all as deranged as psycho as me.
So yeah, I love this film. I'm a total geek for slasher flicks, and he's one of the icons. And he's coming to Fortnite. I'm very excited. This
With
Friday.
Leatherface or
Yeah.
no, really?
Yeah.
Are you gonna get it? You're gonna get the
Yes.
costume? Right
And
on.
then yeah, Tuesday, Jigsaw came out as well on Fortnite.
Like the clown or like the old
Oh,
man?
not the pig, the little Billy
The
puppet.
puppet.
Hmm.
I want to play a game.
That was a good impression. I love that.
That's like one I can do, yeah. Hello, Jordan. Have you seen Saw Jigsaw would make a terrible roommate? Did we watch that one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. He's
YouTube is
like,
great.
I filled the bathroom full of razor blades. He's like
Full of
trying to get ready
razor
for work.
blades.
Yeah. He's trying to get ready for work, and he's like set up death traps, but they're not like death traps. They're just like inconveniences. I hidden the keys to the car. Yeah, he's like, I'm late for work. I gotta go. I hidden the keys to your car inside the toilet bowl or something, and the
No, it was
bathroom.
inside his dog, and his dog's laying there, and he's like, and I removed all the knives, so you have to use a spoon.
That's right. That's great. And there's another one too where he's at work. He's like a terrible coworker.
Mm.
He's like, Amy, and he's like looking over a cubicle. It's so funny, dude. Anyway, those videos never get old. We're gonna do some team building exercises. Like all of you must work together, like to bring up the quarterly reports. It's so funny. But anyway, Jigsaw dude in the workplace. Anyway, um, golly, dude. So, okay, so you're a fan of slasher. And I have to give it to you. I don't think I actually like slasher, but I have said before I do like it when
Like
it's
the
done
best.
well. Yeah, the
Yeah,
best. Cuz
only the
like
best.
yeah, like oh, only the best. Like I turn my nose up to slash, but like it's just the problem I have with it is if I don't have a character I'm rooting for, and this movie teetered on that for a bit, because at first I'm like, I don't even know why I'm rooting for any of these people. But like slowly I did start to care enough where I'm like, I have watched this poor woman get drugged through, jump through two freaking windows, get chased around by a psycho and another psycho, much bigger, where carrying wielding a chainsaw through the forest, through the house, through come face to face with this terrifying, I don't know, shell of a man that's covered in ash skin. It's so creepy. Anyway, so you see her go through so much, and I'm actually rooting for her at the end. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes less is more. I had enough to go on. They're just some hippies traveling down to go see. What were they even going to go see? Was it like, were they headed to Woodstock? What were they doing? They were like,
No, they're staying at that house the
yeah, but what
weekend,
were they doing there?
getting away. I don't know.
Oh, they went to go visit the grave. I think that's what it was.
Hmm.
Anyway. But yeah, and then you don't want to go down to that house. You don't want to go over there. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, um, I'd say like I like the less is more because I guess I was so I was dreading watching these movies because I don't like slasher films very much. But this one in particular, I really enjoyed. I think like as like I said, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the best thing it has going for it is its title. I don't know anyone that would be like, when I go see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like I don't really like blood. It's really not all that gory. You're trying to convince someone to go, just like you're
Well,
trying to get someone to see Terrifier 3. You're
it's
trying to get
kind
your
of the
wife to go
first
see it.
one of most slasher movies. I'd say it's not, except modern slasher movies, but older slasher movies. The first one like saw this, I feel like
Yeah,
aren't
like
as gory.
yeah, they at least had a lot of substance to them that you could like take apart. Like I think there's a lot of hidden messages in this movie. Some are more obvious than others, and then there's some like really interesting character choices and tropes that you're expecting, but like I really liked. There were some visual things, and I haven't watched any analysis of this other than like just movies that mention it by name, like oh, go see this movie because it's a scary movie, but I haven't seen a lot of spoilers for this movie. So watching it, other than like, I would argue that like everyone always says the Resident Evil 7 Biohazard game had like this scene where you're sitting at the dinner table with this crazy family, and it's like, oh, this is like inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you find out that there's the whole family's crazy. But I didn't get that like while watching it. I was like, oh, I don't know who's crazy. I don't know who's part of this family. And so I liked the twists in it and the surprises, even though I feel like this is a movie I should have had spoiled a million times. I really didn't. Like it all felt like I was watching it for the first time. And even though I'd watched the remake, I guess I don't either remember the remake. I know I definitely fell asleep watching it, which is crazy. But I was in college, so I was watching like everything at the time. But I definitely don't remember the remake very much. Are the remakes any good? Are there any sequels that are good to this franchise? Have you seen all of them or any of them?
Yeah, there's only
Yeah.
one I haven't finished, and that's the one with Matthew McConaughey.
Is McConaughey's in it? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
Viggo
all right, all
Mortensen's
right.
in one of them. Uh, they've got a lot of actors. Um, anyways, the only one that I like is the first. The other ones, like, there's moments I like in them. Like,
Yeah.
there's a few
But
moments in the second one because Tobe Hooper directed that one as well, and there's some like incredible practical effects.
yeah.
But I don't know. I just uh, and then yeah, the new ones are just. I mean, all it is a gore fest. There's not really much to them.
It's so funny that you say that because it's almost like the same thing happened to the Saw franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street even, and maybe Jason, Friday the 13th. Like
Hmm.
Friday the 13th, I could point to a very specific thing why the movie works really, really well. It's like, oh, because of this. So the twist villain meets this, meets that. It subverted your expectations. It's not some which is so ironic because like who Jason Voorhees is now, it's like he's this giant hockey mask wielding machete. Like that's Jason. That's not even introduced to like what the third movie. Like that's not who he was. He was a drowned child. He was a tiny
Well,
little baby child that drowned in the lake. That's
and
who Jason is. But instead, he's like a giant hulking and unkillable monster, which get introduced like by the third movie. But again, I understand that it's iconic now, but it is weird how like it morphed from something like that, where Friday the 13th was very different. Even Nightmare on Elm Street, I would argue, I think they probably switched a little less for that, but eventually you are eventually rooting for Freddy. The first one, I certainly wasn't rooting for him, but by like movie 4 or 5, you're like, yeah, Freddy killed the stupid ignorant teens, man. They refuse to be chased.
Wait,
No, like
you don't like the characters in the first one?
no, I think that they're really good. What I'm saying is the
Oh,
sequels that spawn from the originals, they seem to be lacking what made the original so special.
mm.
So they are just shameless cash grabs, but they're all focused on the wrong thing. Like Saw, for example, only like one, maybe two of the traps actually go off and kill anyone. And it's like the idea behind it was clever. It's like you have a
I
serial
mean,
killer.
Frank Darabont though he wrote the third one of Nightmare on Elm Street. It had some fun, clever ideas.
Was that the dream one? Or was
Yeah,
that the
the
fourth
Dream
one?
Warriors. I
Yeah,
mean, they're all
there's
great ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, I
Is
meant
that
to
the one
say,
where the
is that
dreams?
they fall asleep? I just really so stupid that sounded. I meant the
Yeah, it's
fantasy
okay.
one, right? Where
Mm.
they like yeah, fairy tale. Yeah, and again, it felt very different. Like they were trying to do because I tried to watch the second one, just a lot of men liking men, or maybe that's the fourth one. I don't know. One of them was just really gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
It's
but
the second one.
except everything's wrong with that, folks.
No,
We're
it's
talking.
there is no actual men liking men. It's actually just there's people's interpretation of it.
You can
I've
only have
noticed
so many men in underwear, hanging out together.
anyways, I've noticed that on Letterbox a lot of the times people I'll read the reviews, suddenly they're
And they're
like,
like,
"Oh, the
I,
interpretation of this is they're gay." And I'm like, "What? Where did you get that from the movie?" And I just feel like,
you go to their review and their letterbox. It's like it turns out they believe every movie points to the
yes,
character's
I've
gay.
noticed
Yeah.
that in a bunch of movies. I'm like, "Okay, I guess that's your interpretation of it," but and it's just whatever. But um
And then they're happily married to their
I
wife, turns out.
that's reminded me of
It's never who
Clue.
you expect. Yeah.
That reminds me of Clue, and he's like, "I'm gonna go home to
I'm
my
gonna
wife."
go home to my wife. Yeah, that's the guy leaving the reviews. He's like, they're all gay.
Anyways, I wanted to
That's so
clarify
funny.
too that uh, I'll watch any slasher flick, but I
Mhm.
do need more to it, like than just simply somebody killing somebody. Like you said, you don't root for the people. That happens a lot. I'm like, these actors are horrendous, and so you're just like waiting for them to get cut off, and you're
Yeah.
actually rooting for the killer.
Yeah, exactly. But
But
so that was my point. Like all the sequels, they take the wrong lessons from it. Like Saw
that's
was like,
true. Yeah.
let's have more and more gruesome traps, and you're like, That's not like the more interesting part was like the cat and mouse,
Yeah.
small
Detectives.
contained, and then like the people actually escaping from the traps or being pushed to the brink to escape from them. And then the future was like, I've never killed a person. It's like you had two sickles like shoved into somebody's eyeballs, and you're like, oh, I've never killed a person. I'm like, yeah, yeah, Jigsaw, you're right. You've never killed anyone. You've just put people in death traps, or they could escape if they just disemboweled themselves.
He
Like,
didn't
get
pull the
out of
trigger
here.
though, Ty.
Yeah, yeah, I never pulled the trigger. I just put a gun by the other side of the door. I like to see him like he's in court. I've never once killed a person.
I never killed any of these people.
I never killed any of them. It's like, dude, you can't even get the Home Alone thing, which is funny. I don't know if I
That's
mentioned
right.
this. Chris Columbus directed this movie. That is illegal. You cannot set death traps in your home for intruders. If you do, you're going to jail for a long time. It's like a type of entrapment. You're like, hey, come rob me, people, and then you just like torture people that come to your home. Dude, you know what's so crazy? I just thought of we should make a movie like that where he
No,
like
that's I was literally just gonna say that that's actually one of my ideas for my thing, but
get out of here, dude.
it
Yeah.
was kind of already done by the same guy that did Saw. He went off and made a movie called Have you seen The Collector or
No.
The Collection?
Does he invite
Yeah.
people to come to his home and then he
No,
go?
he's a serial killer that sets up tons of booby traps, basically like Home Alone. And so when they come there, people just get absolutely just wrecked.
So I was thinking of like a way to do it, kind of like, an Ant-Man Pym like arranged it so he would show up to try to steal from him and see like he was actually testing him. Like that would be the serial killer movie, kind of like Heretic, where he's got the two missionaries and he's like putting them through trials of faith or whatever for their lives. I was just thinking it'd be really funny if he like advertised like there's a lot of riches and wealth. As long as you can get in and out without me seeing you, I will
Yeah, that
kill
was
you. Like he's
my original
advertising it.
idea.
Dude, let's freaking
Yeah,
go, dude.
but
Let's make this movie, dude. He's
yeah.
just it's kind of like the Don't Breathe. But again, he's very well aware of what he's doing. He's like, come on in, come on, come all. And if you can steal from me, good on you. Like, who's gonna make off with my pot of gold? And he's just like torturing people that come into his house because he's booby trapped every corner of it. That
Yeah,
sounds
well, I was
so
just
funny.
wondering, should it be like he makes a game show of it and like who can get through the house and survive? Or should it just be like just entice people and say,
It's
I've got money in
funny.
here and then set up booby traps?
Yeah, but again, it's like this. It's almost like running. It has to be dystopian enough where
Yeah.
it's like, would he legally get away with it? No. So it's like, how do you
Well, no,
like
that's
there
why I
has
was
to be an
thinking maybe go
underground.
to like a third world country where it's like, I don't know, maybe it's the laws aren't as intense.
Sure, sure. Jordan thinks that third world countries are crap shows. All right.
I don't know.
Yeah, third
It-
world countries, you can get away with this nonsense. No, it's so true. But no, that you bring up an interesting point where I'm like, one, I really like that story. We need to
Oh,
file that away.
it could
Yeah.
be North Korea Thai.
You have to sneak into Kim Jong Un's house
North
and
Korea
steal.
Squid Games.
You're just sneaking around, like trying to get food from his pantry. He's just like has a lot
Oh, that's
going on.
horrible. Oh my gosh. Too far.
Too far. It's
Anyways,
only
back to
funny
this
because it's
movie.
true. Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What was it? So I said less is more,
Classic.
which I thought was great. And then
Yeah.
yeah, I think that uh I think it's not overbearing. They've done remakes, but have they done like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 3, 4? Have they done all that?
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, okay. It just is not as in my face, which I will respect. Like somehow the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Friday the 13th, they've over milked their franchises. I feel like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it feels as though they have milked it, but I'm sure, like you said, they have done sequels and everything, and none of them are any good. But for some reason, it doesn't feel as in
I,
my face. Maybe because
I
the sequels weren't any good, but
I will tell you how many there are. There are 9.
but
So
to my point, I didn't even know of their existence. So I know about how many Texas Chain or
that
Nightmare on
actually
Elm
tied
Street
that
did.
beats out on Scream. Scream only has 6.
Scream has
Predator only
6.
has 5. Alien has
Final
7.
Destination, how many are there on that one?
Oh,
I
I
think
haven't
there's a lot.
checked that one.
That's probably like 7 or 8, right?
But
Saw's
yeah, I
at
have a
10. Yeah,
Saws
it's
at 10. Yeah. Halloween has 13.
hey,
Hellraiser has
that's the other Halloween.
yeah.
Thank you for mentioning Halloween. I was gonna mention that. Like that one, holy crap. Like they've done so many things. Like I don't understand how they can do that many so many times and
Yeah.
not as many Texas Chainsaw Massacres, but I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, it's not that far behind. 9 is a lot.
Yeah, and it's true. But like part of me is like, but how many reboots were they of just like soft rebooting the original? Was it
That
just
one.
the one? Okay,
Yeah.
so the one remake. But then did they do a sequel followed up the remake that was rehashing? No, I
No,
don't
it was just like Next Generation.
got it.
They had a ton of different ones. So.
They're like yeah, like Wall Street Bros going, yeah, like what's the next generation from the hippies from the 60s? I'm trying to remember like it's just a bunch of like Jason Bateman's or not Jason Bateman, Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale's, you know. Oh, look at the subtlety of the
Well,
business
and the
card when they're
reason
all getting chopped up.
I didn't mention Final Destination is because that feels like a different category. That's not quite slasher.
To be fair, yeah. To be fair,
I
you're
mean, they die in basically slasher ways. If
yeah, yeah.
if
Well, yeah, I'm gonna call this slashers in a
if
way.
Death
I mean,
himself showed
how
up,
else would you categorize it? Yeah, it is slasher.
I mean, just horror. I don't know
It's
what
yeah,
kind of
it's
horror.
slasher. Like they turn gory and mutilate. Yeah, you don't see a killer, but like it's a faceless killer that does kill as a slasher would.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll give it. I'll the fact that you don't. Well,
I
plenty
I
of them
guess
die with blades too, right?
okay.
Yeah, we have the girl that
He's
falls in
not
the
an iconic slasher. There you go. I'll give you
death from
a
the Final
slasher.
Destination. You better watch out, Jordan. Your mic's gonna catch fire and your house is gonna burn down just for insulting death. All right.
Oh, I just remembered. I forgot to draw. Okay. Sorry, I'm just thinking of a project I'm working on because I drew out all the slashers. I forgot to draw the collector. I gotta write that down.
Don't forget Leatherface, dude.
I already have him on. Ew. Oh, that's
He's kind of
gross.
like stupid. Okay, so in my review, I need us to refer to my notes here. Okay, so we said our two favorite things. I'm gonna get into it. I just put to think all this madness and this massacre was just because of how expensive it is to keep the lights on in Texas. How expensive was Bro's electric bill? Seriously. Anyway, he makes a joke. He's like, gotta turn off the lights because he almost leaves his store unattended. He goes back in to turn off the lights and lock the door, and he goes, gotta turn off the lights because, it's like it drives a man crazy how expensive, the power bill is. Anyway, I thought that was funny because it's like almost a meta commentary, like his own self admitting, like, oh, this would drive a person crazy. And it's like, this is literally a guy that has a son that chainsaw massacres people. And he brings victims home, but he doesn't partake in the killing. So he's far enough away from it. He just keeps laughing. He's so creepy. The guy's
Yeah, he's
laughing.
almost more creepy than Leatherface.
Oh, 100%. In fact, Leatherface is even terrified of him,
There's
which
a
was
great
very
moment
interesting.
in the second movie because he's in the second one as well, and
Yeah.
he makes chili for everybody, and this lady's like taking a bite, and then she finds a tooth in it, and he's like, "Oh!"
Uh,
He grabs it from her, and he goes, "I must have been a one of those kettle corns or whatever they're called." It's like it's
Kettle
just
corns?
it's something. It was great. It made me smile.
Dude, I feel like so in my review I put you can't even cut through the pulp and the grit of this movie with a chainsaw. Like this movie feels so grimy and gritty, and yet, like I said, you don't see all that much. I don't know if it's just budget or they knew like it actually performs like a psychological horror, which I thought was interesting. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, one thing you'll have to catch me up on. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like based on a true event about a serial killer that killed two Mormon missionaries. Isn't that right? There's
I mean,
something
that's
about that.
no, there's just a documentary called The Real Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This story isn't actually based on that. I don't think it's actually, I don't know if it's true. I wonder if it's another Fargo thing. I don't,
Yeah, like based on real events. I just know that the term Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're right. But I have heard that, oh, this was based off the real story or whatever. So interesting.
okay, to answer your question on Google, it says no.
Well, I understand. That's what I'm saying is they use the term the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but like you just mentioned there was something that they said was the real Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So
Well, that's what they call the documentary. They just did that to bring in all the audiences that knew of that movie.
sure,
It's it well,
yeah,
okay,
they're
yes,
like,
it
here's a
happened in
true
te
gruesome story that happened in
yeah, a
Texas
true
that
gruesome story
yeah,
that happened in
and
Texas. Only
involved a
two,
chainsaw.
well, I mean, okay.
Did it involve a chainsaw? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I
They
know if
just
a chainsaw cuts your skin, supposedly it's supposed to stop. In this movie, the chain never stops. It just keeps revving, even when it's on his own leg. Ah!
dude, that poor driver. Oh my gosh.
Dude, and he stops. He's like, "Wait, what's going on?" And there's just like, "Holy snap! I'm a black man being chased in a horror movie with a man with a chainsaw. There's no hope for me." And the way he was running to,
I
I was like,
love he just
"Yeah."
runs.
He,
Like
but
he
he
doesn't even
takes
go back to his car. He's just gone.
no, and then he has the wrench though, and he freaking throws the wrench. I was
Well,
like,
yeah, he throws it
"Let's
and then he chainsaws
go!"
himself, but then he keeps running. He's
No,
gone.
oh yeah, yeah. I'd keep running. Yeah, do not stop. You circle back around to your truck. Get out of here, dude. I was so terrifying when I was like, I thought he was gonna like throw the chainsaw into the window, but he's just like trying to get at the door, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's too much, dude. It's too much. Anyway,
It's too
I
much.
said one of the most effective anti-meat movies ever made. You know, nearly made me want to go vegetarian. Um, yeah,
Nah,
because
the other way is better. It's just-
the other way.
that dude is so creepy.
I know, dude. He's like cooking all that meat. I'm pretty sure that was human, right? There's no way that wasn't human meat in there,
Hmm.
dude. Because she like looks at it, and you're like, there's this creepy shot of it, and you're like, dude, these people are freaking eating people. Anyway, the freaking final girl jumping out of two windows. That was nuts. I didn't see it coming. She's just like, yeah, just like dives out the window. Freaking awesome. The family chasing her down the pathway, both the chainsaw man and the crazy younger brother with the knife. He's just like kind of
Yeah.
taunting her, teasing her, running after her, and then he's just like
I love how you call
jabbing
it
at her with
teasing as he's like slashing her
well,
up.
yeah, he's like cutting her with this tiny little knife, and she's like, "I've
I
got to
think
outrun the bigger guy with the
your
chainsaw."
definition of teasing is a little different than mine.
I said taunting. I was saying, did I say
Well, you said
teasing? I
taunting and
was.
teasing. Well,
Well,
I get
at
what you're
first
saying.
he was like almost mocking her, but yeah, at the end he starts cutting her. But I think initially when they're running down the driveway, he like easily caught up to her because she's like running away, but it's not like she's outpacing him. He's kind of like not running full sprint, and he's kind of like taunting her and dancing around her.
Yeah, playing
Yeah,
games.
yeah, playing games exactly. But you know, this movie's freaking insane. Um, just the visual of the meat hook, like talking about it, like racks of meat, like freaking Rocky, right? You have these big slabs of ribs of cow beef. He's punching them like just a human being going on one of those meat hooks. Get out of here, dude. Like even
The
just talking about it, it's so grimy, but you never see it. Do you see
the
him?
Leatherface's first introduction though, when he opens that door,
Oh my gosh, the
terrifying.
freaking
So good.
metal door. Yeah.
And then he's just like flopping around the body. It's
Well, see,
great.
I put a joke here. I was
Oh
like,
no.
what did I say? I was like, you know, I thought this movie was just like a whirlwind of emotions because they had me feeling sorry for the big lug when you see how badly he's abused by his own family. I said, poor Leatherface. But then seeing him being unable to be reasoned with and stopping at nothing to chop everything that's moving into bits. But I can't help but feel that the Sloth or Leatherface is just Sloth from the Goonies without a chainsaw.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
abused by the Fratellis, right? The
Yeah.
Goonies, you have
I dropped
Sloth.
you once,
Ah,
maybe twice.
he's like chain. Yeah, I only Mama, you've been bad. Dude, we need to review
Ah,
Goonies on. Oh, we already
we
did
did,
Goonies. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. We need to watch that movie
Might
again.
just have to start re-reviewing everything like we are now.
I know, dude. Well, oh, I found out they're doing a Goonies adult version or whatever. They're finally doing it.
Well,
They're
are they
bringing back the
finally
old
doing it? Okay,
cast.
because I feel like I heard that like
Yeah.
ages ago.
Yes, but I feel like it did get greenlit and they're actually writing it. So anyway, they're bringing back the old cast, but I think they're gonna have like a group of young kids as well. But it's like, oh, don't replace all the, just have all the adults and just have them do a
Or
mini
just bring
adventure.
the Stranger Things kids. They're too young
Because
now.
they're too, no, they're too
I mean,
old
too
now.
old.
Yeah,
Sorry, I've got people go. If it's not Benjamin Button, okay.
yeah. Like they're too old for the role where they play, or too young to play the role where they play kids. Yeah. Anyway, the entire family's off its rocker. But then like I made it, my joke was like, see, a lot of people saw this as a travesty, like an evil man savagely attacking this group of hippies. But I was like, this true story about this is a innocent man enjoying his home, and his house is invaded by a bunch of hippie yuppies that break into his home. He retreats 2 rooms into his house, and he's like, please leave him alone. They keep trying to bother him. He's left with no choice but to defend what's his property and the pursuit of his own happiness. So, anyway, no, you're right. The freaking first time, you meet Leatherface, it's like 40 minutes in. I thought that was interesting, where you didn't have like the early scare early on or anything like that. You
Well,
did
the
have like
guy
a,
in the car is absolutely nuts. Start slashing up his
well, and it's,
hands.
again, great callback though that he turns up later because he almost seemed inconsequential. I literally thought this is so weird. I was like, why the freak are we doing this
Well,
hitchhiker?
I
Like, is
love it
everyone in
because
this town weird? Yeah.
yeah,
But
I
again,
built an atmosphere, especially
yeah,
when there's blood, and he's like, "Do you think he was trying to say something?" Because it looked
yeah.
like he had like wrote a symbol, and I was like, creepy.
Yeah, yeah. He's like warning them or he's marking their car, right? Yeah.
Yeah, mark in their car. That's what I thought.
And then when they finally get to the gas station, you meet this guy. Everyone's a character in this town, and you realize it's all the same freaking family. And you're like, oh, it's perfect. Like, what a great movie. Like, I was like, because I had no
Mhm.
idea. Again, that wasn't spoiled for me. I was like, this weirdo that they hitchhiked. I thought it was building atmosphere, but it was also like, how is he gonna play? And then you find out that he was the one doing the creepy body morphs at the cemetery. He was like taking remains of people and creating like these creepy art sculptures of dead people, and you're like, oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, and
it's
the
just a quick
sound they use
line.
at the beginning. Whoosh, love it.
Yes. Oh my
Love it.
gosh. And then, oh my goodness. I just remember thinking like, how are they going to stick the landing at the end of this movie? Because I was like, it's wrapping up quickly, or I would assume so. Everyone's gone. Like all we have is the final girl. She's getting stabbed, and then like freaking Leatherface and his chainsaw dance at the end of this movie was one of the most terrifying and beautiful things I've ever seen in a horror movie. Like he was so scary. Like he's like dancing. It's almost like Joker dancing down the stairs. Like
Yeah.
it's just like this weird otherworldly thing where he's just like doing what makes him happy and he's just spinning around. But it's so haunting. And the very last sound you hear is like a hard cut from like the chainsaw being really uncomfortably close to the camera. And it just like goes black and then the credits roll. And I was like, if I had seen this movie in the 70s, like I've been so overstimulated now. Can you imagine having watched this movie in the I bet they didn't sleep for months, dude. And I feel like chainsaws were probably a lot more common back then, dude. Everyone had freaking trees that needed felling in their yards. We don't have that now, but like no one owns a chainsaw that I know. Like, I think my father-in-law owns a chainsaw. Like that's it. I don't know anyone else that owns a chainsaw. I never hear chainsaws revving. This movie would have messed me up. It's like it would do for chainsaws what Psycho did to showers. But no one can pick up a chainsaw or see one and not think Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a tool that is inseparably connected to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's pretty remarkable. And it's like I guess they were the first ones that capitalized on it because I also think of Ash from The Evil Dead, but I believe that those were after, right? Those were 80s, right?
Yes, I want to see a chainsaw battle between Ash and Leatherface.
Yeah, dude. We did see
Like
it in Mandy,
in
right?
Mandy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, two chainsaws. So I put another few notes here. Grandpa doing his little dance while sucking the blood off of what's her face's finger. kind of hilarious in a way. Like, what was going on at that dinner table? I've still had scarier political conversations at Thanksgiving dinner with my crazy uncles, but uh, the whole family, the whole family there
Ah.
walking and going crazy, and everyone pounding their dinner plates, and everyone just yelling at her, and she's just sitting there like ah ah. They keep like zooming in on her face and her eyeball. I thought that was awesome. Like they were just getting so uncomfortably close with the close-ups, and I was like, this is so freaking good. Like what a great movie. Like it just adds to the hysteria that you're feeling. You're just like,
Mhm.
like anyway, freaking awesome. Um, and then one last thing. So when I mentioned the anti-meat movie, I thought it was interesting how they mentioned it reminded me of No Country for Old Men. They talk about
Yeah,
the
I was literally
pig,
gonna say
the
that.
rod
Yeah.
that can go in and
Can
blast
you
them, but he
stand still,
goes,
please?
but sometimes if that doesn't work, like you just take a hammer and beat a cow to death. And they actually drive past a farm for cattle and beef, and you feel bad for the cows. And then you realize like the movie is gonna take this story and like terrify you into not eating meat anymore. And you're like, yeah, dude, it is kind of cruel what we do to animals. So I'm like, for the first time, I'm almost convinced of it because I'm like, I watched what this guy treated human beings with the same disregard as human beings would treat to cows, and it's pretty horrifying, right? Um, but anyway, I thought that was interesting too. And I also like the image of a lot of the victims were actually kind of corralled, kind of like a cow would be to a killing chamber.
Mm.
Like they had no choice. They like get to the door and they have to walk down the hallway, and then it opens the door and it's like a brief and swift murderous end, right? And it's like almost sad and pathetic. The one girl almost escapes. She's running away. He freaking runs out, grabs her, and brings her back in. Terrifying. Just a crazy visual, but anyway. So yeah, that freaking hallway, the door opening and closing,
Mhm.
um, and the running up of stairs and the running downstairs and coming face to face with the guy that's just chopping through the door. And I don't know why I thought it was funny when he's like, "Ah, you fool, you darned fool, you ruined the door." And I'm like, "Never mind, you murdered five people." But then I'm like, "Oh, like," because it eventually gets revealed, like, "Oh, he's very well aware of the killing. He like partakes in it, yeah." And poor grandpa, dude, giving him the hammer. He's like, "You finish it, grandpa." He's like, "Oh, he's so old. He keeps dropping the hammer." Anyway, that makes me laugh. But anyway, so yeah, Leatherface, dude. My goodness, I gotta give it to this movie. Awesome, absolutely awesome, terrifying, and that Texas Chainsaw Dance and the sunlight as it's dawn is it's just unreal, dude. I'm gonna go back and watch that and like put it in a compilation right after I listen to the American Psycho when you watch Patrick Bateman doing his phone call to his lawyer. This Texas Chainsaw Massacre dance at the end. I'm trying to think of like other movie moments that are just like so haunting. I'd say Hereditary, this moment where Toni Collette like gets possessed. That's a great moment too. She's like horrified, her husband's on fire, and then she's like, oh.
I love that you mentioned that moment. I was gonna say there's like a ton of moments
There's
in that
ton in that
one.
oh dude, the
Yeah.
freaking sun and the dude, I need to watch Hereditary again. I was watching someone. There was an amazing scene where he's sitting in high school and you see him look up and there's the rear view mirror from the car in his classroom. I missed that visual. But anyway, I was watching like an analysis of it and I was like, is that really in the movie? Like I somehow missed it because there's the scene obviously where he's driving home from the party. The daughter can't breathe because of the peanut allergy, and then the horrific, and then the rearview mirror, right? And he's looking into the rearview mirror
Dude,
like I
don't
just
even get me started on him and hidden imagery. Dude, I've
oh,
been
but
down so many YouTube rabbit holes about this stuff.
is that right? Well, anyway,
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that there was a scene where he's literally in high school, like sitting there staring at the chalkboard, and then like the camera pans up, like it's his field of vision, and you see the rear view mirror,
Okay.
and he's sitting. I'm like, that's so freaking cool. I
l-
missed that, dude. Like, I need to go back and watch the
Let me just
movie.
mention one, and this could
Yeah,
be complete conspiracy theory. I looked at the
yeah.
photo. It could be conspiracy theory, but Rihanna's umbrella, there's an image where the water turns into what's the demon god, whatever. I forgot.
Methuselah, the
He's got like horns and anyways.
possibly.
I watched because I listened to some people talk about it and yeah, if you freeze it, you can see the image. It's I mean,
Wait, are you
people
talking about like Rihanna's Umbrella music
yes,
video? Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were like
I
saying
I
there
watched
was a
it the first time I
movie.
watched it just without even watching the actual image. I was like, I don't know what people are talking about. And then I looked on Reddit and somebody freeze framed it, and I'm like, okay, I guess I can see it.
If you pause this music video, you can see the face of the devil. Yeah. It's just like a happy-go-lucky pop song. And it's like you
Ah.
freeze frame it right there, right as I'm sitting down. There's no attack before I sit down, and then after I sit down, there's attack. Coincidence? I think not.
I
Freaking
think
Jordan.
not.
It's freaking Jordan. Okay.
Oh my
I haven't been down
gosh.
that
I'm
rabbit hole yet
crying.
where people are pointing out demon faces of
Well, that's funny because I'm
goats.
saying you're talking about movies. I've been going down rabbit holes of like things in real life.
Real life, like freaking Cardi B music videos, or not Cardi B, Rihanna music videos. That is
Oh,
too funny. Oh my gosh. Well, Freak, would you recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre? It is the
it's a
Halloween month.
classic.
This is a classic. Watch it, guys. This is a great movie, but not for the faint of heart. Even
No,
it doesn't do all that much. It's not too much, but the movie does make you feel like with the grit and
psychologically, it
pulp.
does a lot.
Yes. Yeah, it's a psychological horror, which is
But
crazy.
I was listening, Ty, to
Not
because you
just a
mentioned the
slasher.
remake, and I noticed a lot of younger kids like that one, and
Mm,
it's because it's like Cameron, he likes the visuals more, or Nick is
sure.
a better example. Because Cameron likes some
They
old
fall for
movies.
clearer images, and yes, technically
Yeah, because
speaking, it
it
could
was
be more
literally
better well
almost a beat
made,
for
but
it
yeah,
was almost a beat for beat remake.
right.
But like, why would I watch it when the original, in my opinion, is a classic and it's better and it's
And
just done
to
better?
me, it's so weird, and I don't know if you feel this way. I feel like I'm watching something transgressive because I'm like, this movie is so old. I cannot believe it's scaring me like this. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Like when I watch Alien, I told my brother-in-law the same thing. I'm like, we need to watch Alien, and he's like, it's old. Like he'd rather go see Romulus, and I'm like,
yeah, that's
I'm sure
Grant.
Romulus is fine, but I was like, watch Alien. Like it still holds up. It is still so scary. It is still so good. And yes, there's a grainy quality to it, but even then, like I watch it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's
But
scaring me that much.
yeah,
It's
and
that
it's
old. It just
well,
it blows my mind.
oh, that movie's so good. And then, but Romulus, it feels kind of like a Disney movie too. Like it has parts that feel like an alien movie and parts that just Disney because Disney owns it now. So
Do they really own
yeah,
Alien? Oh,
Disney owns Fox now. Fox
oh,
is
it's a 25. Yeah.
yeah,
I just
and
thinking of Ridley Scott, but
and
that,
if you
it
watch it,
wasn't he
Ty,
produced. Yeah, it
you
was.
eventually by the end you'll be like, oh, I just watched a Disney movie.
Don't even get me started. Dude, nerfing horror movies I just watched. Okay, so would you recommend? Yeah, we recommend. Now we're gonna get into movies that we've seen lately, movies that we're looking forward to seeing. So I just watched Sting, the Spider movie. Did you see it?
Yes, I was
Yeah.
so sad because I, I
Uh,
I watched like I think a clip or something or part of the trailer and I'm like, ooh, perfect practical effects. Like I'm excited.
yeah.
Obviously a little bit
I
of
thought
CGI, but
Yeah,
like
like when the spider's moving either too fast or like
fast, yeah,
jumping or something. But I
yeah,
thought, yeah, it'd be like a spider. You only get like such glimpses, but even like
yeah,
I
and it's just
understand seeing it more makes it less scary.
and they try to hide it in the dark to make
But
it
it's
look
not
more
even
real.
fair because arachnophobia scared me like no other movie
Well,
did
those
when
were
I was
real
a kid.
spiders.
This is my point. My point was they didn't have enough letting it breathe. Like they kept like the spider
Hmm.
just became such a big threat so quickly. I was almost like, you know what? I needed two scenes. One, I needed the old hag, the I don't know what to call her, the old hag with the dark eyes and the blonde hair. The other foreign mom, the grandmother, she with the dollhouse. I needed to see that scene where she's trying to kill the spider and the daughter saves the spider, like James the
Mm.
Giant Peach, because then the spider and her would have had a connection. Like, oh, my dad left me. I'm not going to abandon you. You're
Well,
my
she was
pet now.
feeding it.
I
I
no, I
mean,
understand that, but she literally finds it in the dollhouse and throws it because it's on her arm. It's like on her hand, and she's like, "Oh, hello, little fella," and throws it in a matchbox and takes it home with her. And I'm like, not compelling enough. I'm
it's
not kidding. I just
almost
need
like
this
a
sponge and spiker from James and the Giant Peach, where she's like, and she's like smacking it
yeah,
with her
trying to kill
freaking
it.
fly swatter, and then James is like, "Oh my gosh, get far out of here! I wish I could escape like you," and sends the spider on her way. Then they have that emotional connection after. It's like, "You saved my life." Anyway, they didn't have that scene. I needed her to be like, "Oh, this is my pet." We never got that. She just like takes from the woman, and then she takes this fight. She just takes everything, and I don't like that. I wish that she was even like if she was Aladdin or something, she was stealing because she's poor or studying up for school. It's just like
Or they
she
showed
just
us like she doesn't have any
steals.
friends, and so like
Yeah, and I liked that they mentioned the father relationship. I thought that was a good tie-in, but even then, like her acting out, I guess you could say. But I just wish that it was a direct result in her getting the spider. And it was. She was there in the room stealing, and so she found the spider. I just needed that scene, but I guess she couldn't get caught doing what she did. So anyway, I just
yeah,
still
there
feel like I still it would have even been better if the spider had like she tried to kill the spider and the spider went into the vent with her and they were both in the vent together and she
I
was
see there were so
there.
many things that I
See,
was like,
little
I
things you
wanted
could do.
I wanted to like this film. I was really bummed
Yes, I
because
know. When I saw the reviews, I was like, okay, like a good creature feature, and some horror and gore. Like it's rated R. I'm like, let's go. And then like I feel like they
there was
definitely
only one good
pulled their
gore scene, and that
punches.
was the guy spraying when he gets
Exterminator,
up
yes, yes, in the vent.
yeah,
Yeah,
in the bed, and starts shooting out like Evil Dead level blood. Just
I thought that was great. Yes, and
yeah.
that was like the one good death, and I was like, and it's like the
Yeah.
movie's over now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I had to wait till the very end to get a good moment. So
I also don't understand how that trash compactor works. Like you can get in the trash, but the middle part of the trash compactor, I guess, I don't know. Is that how trash compactors work? I feel like it would be like more like Star Wars where the whole room would like squish. Isn't that how trash compactors
yeah,
work?
they it would crush them. Like there's a um animal factory. It's the guy escapes from prison into a trash because like he's dumping out the trash and then he jumps inside it. And but he brings in a giant weightlifting pole so he can put it up so it can stop him from getting crushed.
And then it
Because
just bends. Oh, dude, it's so gross, dude. Yeah, it's wild. Um, so yeah, Sting was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't, I didn't hate it, but I also was like, yeah, this is getting
it,
at best a 2-star rating or, whatever. I
I'd
don't
love
want to watch it
to,
again.
and I mentioned this in my review. I'd love to see the behind the scenes to see what's practical, because
Sure, sure.
this that big spider like, and but like you said, it just they didn't give you enough time, and there
I
wasn't
even I
enough.
even enjoyed like the whole mothball aspect where she's using the water gun like just like a child would like has like a weapon again like it reminded me of Lost Boys, which I love. I love
Mhm.
the Lost
I
Boys.
love Lost Boys
It's like
too.
just the Goonies children taking on horrific monsters. It was so good. Part one because of that. I like
Uh,
kids that have to man up and face a real scary monster.
what
I
the
think that's great.
Kid does that as well with the
Sure, yeah, he's got
slingshot.
the little trebuchet thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
They have like weapons, but they're almost outmatched, but their courage is it's just what makes it so fulfilling. You're like
yeah.
these kids are standing up against like a horrific monster and they're almost naive, but like their bold courage and naivety like actually like I don't know, it's very charming in a way and it gives you hope. You're like that's the world, right? Someday you have to come into your own and become a man, or an adult and like take on the demons of the world, the monsters of the world. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But like I said, and the opening credits, I was off to a great start. I liked the song, like What a Way to Die or whatever. And like the spiders crawling through the dollhouse. I thought that was all great visuals, like it even foreshadows, it's standing on the top of the crib. And I'm like, oh, the baby's going to get eaten. Gets safely delivered into a web, and then they save baby and father and mother, but not the old aunt. Because F her, man. She's the worst.
Oh my gosh.
No, I just think it's really funny when they like kill off people and they're like, only the morally deplorable people. Like maybe they have some slightly outdated views on race or something, and then it's okay and morally justified to kill them. Don't believe me? Just watch Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, or what was it called? Army of the Dead,
Army of the Dead. Yeah, it sucked.
the casino one. Yeah, it's like you find out the one guy's a sexist, and it's like, okay, tear him apart, make it grisly. You're like, okay. It's just so funny. Give them the kicking the dog moment, right? Make sure that you know that they're a villain and you're not supposed to like this person,
Yeah,
and
how
then you
about
can
defy our
horrifically.
expectations and turn the
Mhm.
tables like they did in Bone Tomahawk with the guy who
Oh,
killed a bunch of Indians? Oh my gosh.
so
Just
crazy.
like you don't even have to like him, but just to understand his motivations.
Yeah, or you might say, not a two-dimensional character. Like I said, I don't
Yeah.
have to agree with them, but I do like it when a story's like, wow, you've been through some stuff, and in spite of that, you're still trying to do the right thing at the very end. That's pretty heroic. Boromir, anyone? Literally gets tempted by the ring and then like he feels awful about it and then he gives his life ultimately. So freaking
Mm.
good. I had to mention Boromir because I just finished Rings of Power. I don't know if I watched the finale. Have you seen any of it?
No, I don't
Show
care.
is awful. The show is so awful. I'm just amazed. There is an amazing meme though now. Like everyone keeps playing that orc song. I don't know. I keep hearing it. It's just so awful. But at the end of the penultimate episode, the second to last episode of season two, Adar like has one of the rings, and then like it just starts playing this like orc like metal music. It's just so funny. I'll have to send you a clip of it because it
Okay.
literally made me laugh out loud. Like you're like, this is like this is what they did to Tolkien and ripped off from Jackson. Like they took like they just what is it called? Plagiarism. They literally plagiarize. Like imagine writing a college essay and you like literally copied off somebody else and you're like, this is my essay. They're literally doing that with not even just Tolkien's work, but also Peter Jackson's films. They just took the things that people like they took Boromir, how he's getting shot with 3 arrows, and he keeps fighting. They have this like Asian elf who we don't even know whose name it. Like it's just this nameless elf, but she's an Asian female. She's getting shot with like 6 different arrows. She gets back up and then fires one last arrow into some like I don't know kerosene and it blows up. And then she gets shot with a final arrow and dies. And you're like, it's supposed to be this harrowing thing. I'm like, I don't even know who that elf is. I don't even know what her name is.
Oh,
I don't
so
know
it
why she.
wasn't like because in the first or Lord of the Rings, that first movie, when he gets shot a bunch of arrows and
Yeah, yeah.
still
So
tries
Boromir,
to
yeah,
protect.
they're
Oh,
literally
Boromir, duh.
alluding. Yeah, they're alluding to Boromir and the
Mm,
death. Like he's getting shot with arrows, but he's valiantly keeps fighting.
hmm.
But it's earned because you understand Boromir is making up for the fact that he scared Frodo off and told him he was
Sorry,
taking
when you
the
said
ring.
Boromir, I thought that was the other guy that tries to steal the ring, and then his father sends him in the front lines to go die.
Faramir, don't worry.
Faramir.
I
Okay.
can't imagine. I
Oh, they're
can't believe you.
brothers. That's right. They
I was
both do
like,
the same thing too. That's funny.
yeah, but Faramir was a better brother. He never he lets Frodo go. He doesn't keep the ring.
That's right.
And which is why, again, his father misjudged.
I
He
mean,
liked Boromir much
Boromir
better.
finally realized it after he ran off that he was like, "Oh crap, what have I
The
done?"
cost of his life. Exactly. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That scene is so earned and it's so powerful. And this one, it's just like, hey, here's this Asian elf, and you should care about her because she's female and she's Asian. What a wonderful person. And she's getting shot with all these arrows. And then she like grabs one final arrow. And then she looks at Elrond. Everyone's just stopping on the battlefield, just watching her. I'm like, she's getting shot by arrows from all directions. We don't even know where they're coming from. There's no story. It's just like, I'm being shot with all these arrows. She looks over to make sure they're watching, and she's like, watch this, and fires an arrow. It lands in the kerosene, blows up. And I get it. It's like, oh, this is our bad A female moment. And I'm like, it's so cheap, it's so unearned, and it's plagiarized. They're literally plagiarizing the source material. They're literally ripping off Jack.
Well, but
So
they
they're
don't
submitting their
understand it's
what made it
literally what we
even good
talked
in the
about
first place.
with
Yes.
earlier about all the sequels to all these
Yes.
slasher movies.
Which full circle. This is exactly why I wanted to bring this up is they are plagiarizing much better and more talented people, far more intelligent than these people were. And that had absolute respect and did a carefully crafted story and characters. And this is just like, hey, remember like someone getting shot up with a bunch of arrows and then firing something really cool? It's like you sound like an idiot, like trying to explain how good the story is, but you don't understand why it's good. You're like, oh, there's an awesome scene where Boromir's getting shot with a bunch of arrows and he keeps fighting. And you're like, yes, but it's earned because again, he fell and he had a moment of weakness and he has to pay for it with his life. And then that's what makes his heartfelt death so impactful when he tells Aragorn like I'm sorry and I die now and you're my king and I shouldn't have
Okay,
ever been tempted.
I don't mean to
So freaking
spoil
good.
I don't mean to spoil the new Alien, but I just want to quote one of the lines, and it's
Yeah.
the famous line from Aliens 2 when she's like, "Get away from her, you be."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so they do that again in the new movie because, of course, it was because they quoted
Oh
it,
yeah.
but he
Yeah.
says it in the most awkward, like out of place. It just feels
He
so
has to say
like,
the line. Yeah. He
yeah,
said the line.
I know, and I was just like, I what? And I seriously, I felt like I died a little bit inside. Like I
Yeah.
was just
Yeah. It's
like,
like we said the thing from the movie. He said the thing.
I'm
You're
just
supposed to be
like,
like a seal clapping.
yeah. When there
It's
was
so
like, it
sad.
had plenty of good stuff that could have just, it could have been its own movie, but unfortunately, Disney and amongst all these other companies that just like,
It's like
we
you
have
have
to
to
make
say
sure
the
we, yeah,
line. Yeah.
we
You have
have
to
to
say
do
you have
that
to say the
part.
line. It's
You
like
have to do it.
and I was like, but how do
It's
we
like,
make it good? And I almost felt like Feedy is either spitting in their face, being like, well, here's the line, and it's awkwardly delivered. Or he was like, oh, maybe like it's a subversion of your expectations because like Ripley was so
I,
powerful. So maybe a character saying it, not so sure of himself and awkwardly was like a way to
yeah, I mean, I listened to
protest.
interviews with him and he just said
Yeah.
that like, he understands that
He had
like
to
he
make
has to do some things. He just has to. He
interesting.
has no choice.
So
So,
maybe
but
that's intentional where
well, yeah, but
it's
no, he
for
loves the movie
Feedy.
so much, and obviously such a fan. He's just like, I'm willing to do as long as they let me do my stuff. Like, I'm fine to give them their,
Sure.
checklist.
See, I can't help but think that, yeah, maybe, but again, so there's Chris Gore is a famous movie critic and reviewer. He did a really interesting story, and I mentioned this, I think, but Pinocchio, the remake.
Oh
They
no.
have like really beautifully animated manure on the street, and like it's weird and it's grotesque, and there's flies around it, and Pinocchio literally bends down to sniff it, and you're like, what is this scene?
What the
I
fuck?
know it's weird when I describe it, but and then Chris Gore is like, I can't help but think that the animators being held hostage by the studio that's like, you animate this movie, you're making a Disney remake of Pinocchio, and it's like, I came here with visions to like make the next generation of movies, and now like they're stuck repurposing like old garbage, less inspired, less. But the poop is literally like, we know what we're making is bad, but like we're animating it, so like they're resigned to just putting graffiti. Like, we were here, we know it's bad, but like I'm doing my job. I just thought that was so interesting, and it like really spoke to me on a deep level. And I got like almost emotional thinking about this because I was like, yeah, you have like animators that were so excited. Like, I can't wait to make my Aladdin. I can't wait to make
Yeah.
my like I want to make the next Little Mermaid. I want to make like the next movie that like really like pushes the envelope like of what's possible. And then it's like, yeah, you're resorted to making a cash grab for a soulless corporation that just needs to make money and turn a profit at the end of the day. It's just so weird. And I get it. Like I know it's like the in an altruistic world, oh, they have to make a profit, but it's like profit should not be your motive, because when it is, you start making soulless cash grabs and remakes and plagiarism. They just plagiarize more creative and better people than they and try to remind you of the things. So like the member berries that South Park talks about, it's like that's the only thing they have going for them. They jangle the keys in front of you, like, oh, you recognize the thing from the thing, don't you? And you're like, I feel so empty inside. This is so tragic. And that's why I can't watch these Disney remakes. Even though I defend Cinderella. I thought that was a fine remake. Tim Burton at least was doing something before and after Alice in Wonderland. Didn't think they were all that good, but I was like, hey, he's doing the hook thing for Peter Pan that for Alice. He's like, this is the stories years later where she comes back and murders
Oh
the
yeah, that was
monster.
fun.
Like, it's different enough. And again, I didn't think it was ultimately like the best movie ever, but I was also like, it didn't feel like a shameless cash grab remake, even though yeah, it was a little bit. But anyway, partially because you had like what's his name, Johnny Depp, doing the same thing where he's just being weird, quirky Johnny Depp, being the Mad Hatter, and then you have Tim Burton who's just gonna Tim Burton all over the place.
What else have you seen
Anyway,
today?
dude, what else have I seen? So after I fingered Rings of Power, darn it, the Rings of Power were so bad. It's just made a bad taste in my mouth. I rewatched Caveat. I rewatched Oddity. Did I mention Speak No Evil? I think I mentioned this on the last episode. I want to watch the James McAvoy version because I really like him in Split, and I think he's a great enough actor. And I hope that he would only sign on to this believing that there was meat to it and like really going for it, because the actors in the foreign film were weird and awkward, but I was like, this is like every interaction. Like if you have kids and you have watch other people parent their kids, that low grade anxiety of like conflicting of the way you parent kids, like it's very
Hmm.
real. And I'm like, that's what this movie speaks to. And it's very hard to watch.
Well, I
Like
I like
that
it.
part was
There's
more terrifying than like finding out the kid's tongue has been cut
I feel like there
out.
I just wrote in my review that man, that's that stupid bunny. Like just like forget the bunny. I don't care how much your daughter wants it.
I know,
Please.
like buy her a new one. If my stupid brat was like, "Oh, I turn around and get the," and then when they go back, then they end up staying, and I was like, that does not work. Like after you packed, you do not unpack again. Never
Yeah,
happens.
but
Not once.
it's goes to the girl with the dragon tattoo, and the guy's like, people, the fear of offending is stronger and more powerful than the fear of
Where they'll actually allow themselves to get corralled into a dangerous place because
yeah,
they're not willing to say, "No, I need to get out of here." Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, there's definitely truth to that. I know a lot of serial killers were like, yeah, they were let in. People were like, oh, I felt uncomfortable asking him to leave, and so they put themselves past a point of no return. So, but anyway, watching Caveat and Oddity again, I have to say, I think I like Caveat better. I like Oddity. I think it's a really great informed movie, or informed, very informed, uh, well put together and beautifully shot, and good Shyamalanian twist. But this Caveat just felt it's kind of got like a special place in my heart. It's like a feels
I
like
mean, it kind of
following from
helps though when
Christopher
you had the
Nolan.
people you watched it with saying they liked Caveat better, so it
No,
might
but
have.
so it's funny you say that because I was curious because I watched Oddity first, then I watched Caveat. So that's the order I saw him in. He watched Caveat and then Oddity and liked Caveat, if that makes sense. So like,
Yeah.
because initially I was like, well, maybe he should watch Oddity first and then we watch Caveat because I didn't know which one he would like better. because my first initial fear was like we watch Oddity, but then he'll watch Caveat and think it's a lot lower budget.
Mm.
But we watched Caveat, he loved it, and then we watched Oddity, loved it, but he's like, I think I like Caveat more, is what he said. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, after watching them both a second time back to back, same evening, I was like, yeah, I enjoyed a lot more out of Caveat. It feels more like a horror movie, whereas Oddity had some great twists, even like moments of dread, but I think Caveat had more moments of dread,
Hmm.
and they're more often. Like
Interesting.
dead bodies, dude. What a great use of a dead body. I'm just saying that body is
Oh
working all
yes,
the
I mean
time.
that
Yeah.
is. I can't even think about it without like
Other
I
other
have to
than
stop.
like Jane, the autopsy of Jane Doe, has a cadaver been so effectively
Oh yeah,
used
yeah.
and not done the thing where it's like, oh, is it gonna blink? Is it gonna do it?
Oh
And it
yeah, I
doesn't.
it never took
No,
the
it
bait.
does.
I was impressed. I'm like, okay, props to you. I was waiting for her to like give me a jump scare, you know.
Although to be fair, I mean, you kind of do, but
There was in other
yeah,
places, but yeah, I just meant like
to the very end. I still needed that scene where the uncle was put into it and he's climbing up the stairs and gets pulled out. That's the American remake. They do an American version of freaking Caveat.
an
Anyway.
American version. No, 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 no.
I know, see, it's almost believable because it's like this
The
old
only
farmhouse,
the
you
only
know?
time I'm
Creepy
appreciative of
basement.
American remakes is when I mean, well, obviously when a certain amazing director can elevate it, like Martin Scorsese, but
Dude, I need to see that what was that movie called? The Japanese version of that one? The
oh, yeah, the Infernal
Infernal
Affairs,
Internal Affairs, yeah.
Infernal,
Infernal Affairs?
Infernal Affairs,
Or was it Internal Affairs?
Inf. Oh my gosh.
Is it
Anyways, so
infernal?
it is Infernal.
I thought it was called
I'm not
internal affairs.
joking.
I thought you
No,
were saying the word wrong.
no, Infernal.
Infernal.
Um,
Does that
and
mean like from hell?
something like that, I think.
In Inferno?
Infernal. I now
Is that
you're
even a
making me
word?
second guess myself. Oh my gosh.
I thought it was internal affairs, as in like inside the office, right? Maybe it is infernal.
No, it's Infernal. Oh my gosh. Freaking
So yeah, so you were talking about the remake Scorsese did of
It says,
Internal
yeah,
Affairs?
so I looked up the definition. It says relating to a characteristic of hell or the
Yeah, of hell.
underworld.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good. I mean, it's a clever title because in the end, I'm like both titles kind of work. But anyway, I think mine's better. But what do the Japanese know, man, about good cinema? But I do want to
Is
see
it
it because the
the
movie
Japanese?
is a masterclass of filmmaking. I tell everyone to see The Departed. It's freaking great. But I think that's interesting that as far as an
Which,
American remake, yeah, the movie's awesome. So I'd be interested to see Inferno Affairs.
but yeah, getting back
Did you
to
like
any,
did you like Scorsese better than you've seen both?
yeah, I haven't finished the Infernal Affairs. Tried,
Well, that
I
answers
got,
it. Yeah, you watched
I
it and you're
started
like,
it
ah.
twice and I'm just like,
Jordan's like literally studying Japanese while trying to understand the movie. You can turn on subtitles.
Scorsese, he just did it so good. I don't know. Yeah, but I did watch,
I
any,
don't want to be a product of my
anyways, what I'm trying to get at is
environment. I wanted my environment to be a product of me.
I did just rewatch that with my wife again. It's a good movie. Um, what I was saying though about remakes is I'm only happy when the American ones tell me that, oh, there's a foreign version that I need to see. Because sometimes it's like I
No,
had
that's so
never
true. Yeah, it's like it was such a good movie that they're making an American movie. Like, oh, good. I'm gonna go watch the foreign film now and not bother with the American.
like that Will Ferrell movie, I think it's called Downfall or whatever, the Snowfall, the one with the
Yeah, yeah,
skiing.
yeah. The force
I
majeure.
Yeah, but then I found out it had an original film. I went and watched the original and I watched the American one, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
the I'm
force
so
majeure was way
glad.
better. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I'm just so glad they made it just so I could be introduced to the foreign one. The American one's trash. But it's just like if I hadn't known about that, it's the same with I mean, there's so many movies that are just like that as well that I've seen that later I find out, oh my gosh, it has a
There's a
foreign
foreign film.
version.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
oh,
good.
the one on the phone with
Jake Gyllenhaal,
Jake
The
Gyllenhaal,
Guilty.
The Guilty, yeah, the foreign version is so good. I'm just so glad I was able to check that out.
Excellent.
So
I love it, man. Well, any movies that you're looking forward to? I would throw out. I'm really looking forward to seeing. I wrote down so many movies, dude. I'll just
yes,
put down ones I'm looking forward to seeing. One, okay, I want
Friday,
to see. I want to see Blackberry. What's Friday?
Terrifier 3.
That's um, I was gonna put I'm excited to go see the Blackberry. I do want to see Boys in the Boat, and then I do want to see. Oh, there's so many movies, but see, that's funny because I'm like literally looking through them alphabetized. So I'm like, I'm gonna list off all the A titled movies,
And
all
I
the
just
B
want
titled movies.
I just want to mention while you're looking that up.
Sure,
I played the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, way overhyped it because I was like too excited. I'm obsessed with Friday the 13th video game, and I just bummed because speaking of, we're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre on this episode. I just was really bummed because it's not that it wasn't like really loyal to you know, the people that there's a lot like you kept talking about her jumping through the window. You can do that in the video game, and then you're like hurt and you have to like try to limp to the exit. It's really great. Like there's moments that I'm like, this is pretty awesome, but man, I don't know. I just personally I just like it feels too claustrophobic. I like Friday the 13th where you can kind of run outside and you can actually kill the bad guys. The problem too is there's three villains and four survivors, and that ratio is horrible because you just get killed off so fast and you can't kill them. In
sure,
Friday the 13th, there's eight survivors and one killer, and you can kill him. So it's
right.
like and it's fun because you can escape in a car and stuff. This one, it's like you just have to run to a fence. Like, I don't know. I just don't love that. It's a lot more
Different.
hiding, and I'm just like, man, where's the I don't know.
Were you a
Not
fan of Alien Isolation? Did you play that one a lot?
I didn't play it a lot, but I did
Yeah,
try it. It's just, I don't know. I don't like first person.
yeah.
I can only do Call of Duty first person. I just
Or
can't.
Fatal Frame, dude. Fatal Frame 2. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
Scariest game of all time,
no, it's
dude.
freaky. But
Ooh, get shivers
anyways,
thinking about
so just
it.
it's not that it's a bad game. I want it to be more like Friday the 13th. Let us kill the killer and make a higher ratio of survivors, which they just recently released a new game, but the problem is it doesn't have Leatherface. And that's just some random guy. It's like boo.
I love it. Well, folks, this has been Future Hidden Movie Gems. Leave us an email, futuremovies@gmail.com. We sure love you guys. Happy Halloween. Stay safe out there. Stay cool.
Peace. Oh my gosh.
Bye.